Everyone, this brings us to our last section here in the Age of Rocks, and we've got soil formation. What can you tell me about soils?
Well, soil isn't just dirt, I can tell you that. Soils are loose, broken rocks that are weathered and broken down, but they also have to have a little extra added to them. It happens to be dead stuff.
So that organic material that is mixed in with the broken down rock layers creates this soft material, which we call soil, and allows living things to grow in them or live in them, and those nutrients are returned back to the soil. So we got two different types of soil here. We've got what we call residual soils and transported soil.
Residual soils basically, well, the word in there is reside. You can see that they stay in one place. So they are from where you're from. So the soils are formed from broken down bedrock that's actually from right in the area that you're standing.
Transported soil will be more of a soil that is moved away from where it was formed. So some agent, ice, wind, water, gravity, moved that soil that was created to some other location. And you can see that to create only about a centimeter of soil, you gotta wait at least 100 years to get a very, very small amount of this broken down material.
Now, one example of a transported soil would be something called loess, which is a soil that comes from China, believe it or not. Wind picks it up, carries it through the jet stream, and deposits it, well, basically in our Midwest. And that is part of the reason, maybe the main reason, why our soils there are so fertile.
So when we dig down into a soil layer, we can actually see kind of what we saw in relative dating. We can see a distinction between one layer and the next. We've got a horizon, a B horizon, and a C horizon.
This takes place at the very top of all those rock layers that we saw before. So this is actually a new layer being formed. And if you look at the picture, you can actually see there are different sections here that have different things.
So in the topmost layer, the A layer, it's got the most organic material, holds the most water. That's where a lot of the roots are for living plants, and that's where you kind of get the most growth.
Yeah, the bugs are there, all the decaying matter, leaves, all that organic stuff just breaks down and becomes part of that upper layer.
Okay, when you get a little bit lower, you get more clay minerals, you get more smaller particles that are not able to allow water to flow through them. And when you get to that C horizon, you're really just above the bedrock. So you have a mixture of large pebble-sized pieces that are right above the actual physical bedrock.
So if you can describe visually what you see in the picture here, you have a pretty good idea of what you would mention for each of these horizons as we move downward.
And I would say that somewhere in maybe the B or C horizon is where you're probably going to find your water table. The profile here you can see based on the richness and the color of the different soils, we can kind of tell where we are or the size of the particles. There is that O layer. What's going on with the O layer?
Well, the O layer is basically called the organic layer. It's comprised of basically something called humus. Humus is a very rich material with a lot of organic components to it.
So you can see it's only about the first 2 inches of our soil profiles. Most people don't dig any further down than 10 inches, so you're really not even getting into the B layer. The B layer goes down maybe 30 inches or more, and it takes about maybe 2 or 3 feet to get down to the actual bedrock, all depending on where you live. In my old backyard, that C layer was probably about 4 inches below the ground.
Yeah, mine too.
So if we're going to see a profile like this, give me what layers you think you see where.
Well, I think I can see the organic layer in the top. Just a few inches there where the grass is growing. Most of the organic material is going to be there. You can actually see that it might appear slightly darker in some spots. As we go down through the layers, it gets lighter and lighter, which means less organic material. So that layer of, right there, is the A layer.
You
can see the roots sort of running out of steam in that middle layer there, and then finally no roots at all, and I can see some chunks of rock that seem to be in that bottom layer.
And the big thing with vegetation is that vegetation will be able to kind of hold your soils there. This is what we talked about when we talked wind erosion in the Dust Bowl, that plants play a huge factor in slowing down water, kind of protecting the dirt around it from being washed away or being struck by raindrops, and it kind of anchors the soil if there's any wind.
So in this particular unit, we've looked at how to find the ages of rocks and how layers are broken down. So what you should know at this point is a little bit about absolute dating. You should know a little bit about relative age dating, and the very top layer of soil, you should know how those layers are broken down. So we'll see you next time.